All right. MadDog, are you ready?
I am.
Cool. All right, so we'll get started here.
It's raining tacos from out of the sky. Tacos, no need to ask why. Just open your mouth and close your eyes. It's raining tacos.
What's up, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to episode 12 of the DTF podcast. I'm Audio Reborn. Today we have No Face and we have a brand new guest, the one and only MadDog, or Mr. MadDog to you, scum. How you guys doing today?
Best day ever.
Doing very well, thank you.
All right. So, as we normally do here, when we have a new guest on the show, we'd like to put a little spotlight on them, have them give a little background on their gamer tag.
Well, my gamer tag came around when basically me and my kids were playing some Halo 3 when I wanted to do some multiplayer online gaming, and I threw that one together. I thought it was funny, thought it sounded tough and whatnot. The kids got a kick out of it, so I just kind of left it that way, and it's been that way ever since. So,
Kids make the choices, right?
yeah, exactly.
So you've never had a different gamer tag or anything? It's always been Mr. MadDog to you?
It has, yeah.
Okay.
I literally, it was in the Halo days that I first got on Xbox Live, and it was really only for the Halo multiplayer. And then I took a hiatus from gaming for quite a while, and then it wasn't really until Destiny came out that I came back and picked back up on the gamer tag and took off from there.
Well, we're definitely glad that you came back. You're a blast to play with, man. I don't know if I've ever told you that before
Well,
or
thank
not.
you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, likewise, you guys.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, been around a while, man. Been around
Are you
a
calling
while.
him old, man? Rude.
I'm old too.
Hey, I am an old man. I think Gruff's the only one older than I am in the clan right now, so.
Yeah, I think so. All right, so I guess we'll get started on some Destiny news here. So, has anything interesting happened to you guys within gaming in general or Destiny 2?
So, I don't want to, again, like we said this just a second ago, I don't want to be like the salt fest here, but we have to touch on faction rallies because that's what happened this week. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's just me, if it's other people or whatever, but like there's the glitch with receiving faction tokens and anything like that. I played for about 2 hours yesterday and received 0 faction tokens. 0. And I did PvP, I did public events, I did lost sectors, and nothing. And so like I'm so over it. Like I was just like, whatever. This, like, you know, as much as I love FWC, like I can't handle it. So that was my week.
So you mean to tell me you played for 2 hours and you got no tokens at all?
I played I guess that was 2 hours yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. I played on Wednesday and tokens were dropping normally. Then I logged in Thursday and got nothing. And I thought it was just me. I thought I was like, am I just not paying attention? But then I went and I even recorded it. Like I started recording clips and going back looking through and keeping track of how many tokens I had. And yeah, 0. Got no tokens.
That's crazy. I didn't even know that was happening.
I thought it was always guaranteed tokens for a completion of
Yeah.
some sort. I thought that they, from what my understanding of it was, is that they had time locked at least like the chest on lost sectors.
Mm-hmm. And they had.
Right.
From farming those tokens.
And the lockout's like 10 minutes. That seems a little bit ridiculous.
And
Like I can understand like maybe 2 minutes, but 10? I mean, come on, really?
So I'm giving up the goat here. I haven't played in quite a long time, but wouldn't from one public event to the next be under that 10-minute time frame?
normally, yes. Yeah.
Possibly. Yeah. So you're basically locked out of being able to do a back-to-back public event in that case then.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is there's an ornament. I can't remember what character it's on, but the ornament requires you to do like it. Basically, it's like, hey, if you want this ornament, you got to go do X amount of lost sectors. And it's like, well, if you want us to do so many lost sectors, then why did you put a 10-minute lock on it? Like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like there's you can't really win like that. It's just doesn't make any sense.
Apparently, they want you to spread it across many days to do that.
That's a widespread, my friend.
Well, so obviously the lockout timer for lost sectors and everything like that was obviously there because of the Weep farm that happened last faction rally, where you could get like 500 tokens in an hour.
Yeah.
And there's two things that I have with this.
Yeah.
If people want to run in a circle for an hour, just like farming tokens, that seems to me like a very unfun way to play. But if that's the way they want to play, like, let them play that way. Like that, if they're having fun, they're having fun. Like, let them do their thing. So I don't think that you necessarily need to relegate how people have fun. And second thing, it was an issue with one lost sector in one spot. Like, so we had this one issue. So like with one lost sector. So let's break every lost sector in the game. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah. Why not just fix it on that lost
Exactly.
sector so that they couldn't do a turn and spin type.
Mm-hmm. And I'm no like coder or anything like that or game designer, so I don't know how complicated it is. I don't know what their code looks like. But you would think that it's like, oh, you just say in your release, man, like, hey, we're just gonna make it so the Weep, it just simply won't give you tokens. Like, no matter what, it's just not gonna give you tokens. All the other lost sectors will, but the Weep is just not going to. And I think that's an okay fix. But whatever. The
Seems pretty fair.
on Reddit, I saw the analogy. Someone says that the door is broken, so we burned the house down. Like, well, fair enough.
So for me, I got on and then I saw it was faction rallies. So I was like, all right, great. So I pledged to New Monarchy, and then I went. Yeah, of course, me, the OCD in me, I got to go and, I got to clear all the triangles and all that stuff like that at the vendors, right? So I go to Eververse, right? And I look all the way at the bottom, and she has the exotic ghost shell for sale for 3,200, whatever the shards or
Bright dust
or whatever it is. Yeah, and it's the one, and think about it, it's the one ghost that gives you extra tokens for factions.
Wait, what? Does it really?
Really? Are you shitting? Yeah, it really does. Yeah, no
and then,
shit.
So they're charging 3,200. So they're basically blackmailing you into getting this ghost in order to turn around.
Yeah,
so
didn't
that you
they
can improve on
just?
the faction rally.
And last week they were just talking about how they weren't really going to do stuff like that, and then you turn around the next week and then you put that bullshit in there. I saw that. Turned it off. I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to bother with it. So I haven't played it since Tuesday.
Oh, man.
Like, I'm not even. I'd rather play the Division or play with my fucking toes than that bullshit right there.
Jeez. I did not know that.
I was like, nope. That. And like, when I had came to you, earlier this week, I'm literally considering burning my bridge with Destiny 2 in general.
Oh yeah, you sent me that
Like,
message.
I don't even care anymore. That was literally the stopping point for me. I was like, you know what? I really don't fucking care anymore.
The straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Man, that is sad.
Yeah.
I'm really upset that you told me that, because that makes me sad now.
Yeah, I just it was frustrating, but whatever. I mean, what can you do?
Yeah. Okay, well, anything happier? So, MadDog, I know you said you haven't been playing Destiny very much. So, what have you been playing? Because it's got to be a lot happier than what we're talking about.
I've actually picked back up on the Division. I've played it since beta and bought the actual original game when it came out, and have been playing all the iterations since then. But 1.8 came out basically same time as Curse of Osiris, and they just really nailed it on the head with this one. Everything's balanced. Everything, all the builds that you pick up are solid. You actually can feel that you're powerful with that build, and that you actually have a specific job within your fire team. So it's been great. They added a lot of new content PvE wise. They now have a mode called Resistance, which is basically a horde mode. A lot of people compare it to Call of Duty Zombies in a way.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have really taken to that, and it's been a huge influx of people coming back to it, and it's been great.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw the picture that I posted yesterday in the main group me chat, but I was on Twitch, and I've been monitoring this for the past couple of weeks, and I'm noticing a lot more frequently that the Division is being streamed. It has a lot more views and being streamed a lot more than Destiny 2 lately.
Yeah, I had heard that or read that, I believe, too. That the streamers were actually starting to outnumber again, or are coming on Division over Destiny, which was pretty surprising.
Yeah, that is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and just to recap for people that are listening and they don't know what the Division is.
Good point.
The Division is a game that came out. Yeah, the Division is a game that came out. I believe it came out on across all platforms: Xbox One, PS4, and PC. I believe it was about 2.5 years ago in March
2016.
Basically, it's a third-person shoot. It's a third-person shooter game in post-apocalyptic New York. It's a looter shooter. So if you've played games like Diablo or Path of Exile, games like that, it's along the general area. Yeah, sure. We'll throw that in the pot because apparently.
Well, honestly, if I was to compare it, I would compare it very much like Destiny 1. And the reason I say that was because Destiny 1 gave you the random perks that dropped on weapons and things like of that nature, and Division has always held to that. It's you're still looking for that perfect roll on a piece of armor or on a weapon, and so it's very much a grind like Destiny 1 was. So I think that's still a big appeal to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, basically Destiny is just like a watered down version of a game like that, because you can't re-roll your stats and stuff anymore, except for like masterworking. But other than that, I mean,
right.
Okay, so MadDog.
Yeah. So
sorry, I was just gonna ask. So, have you played like the Division consistently since release, or did you stop playing and come back, or how has that worked? How's that been for you?
I've played consistently, but nowhere for periods of time like I am right now on 1.8. The reason being is that I would jump on, especially like when the new DLCs were released. And I will say that of all the DLCs, Survival is a game mode that I truly wish that they would make a standalone game and put it out there for the public, because it really makes you have to work, and you feel a sense of accomplishment when you actually make it out of the or to the goal of survival. And
when you
survival, basically, survival is the basic premise behind it is that you're in the middle of a blizzard, a sub-zero blizzard in New York. Your helicopter crashes, and you're trying to extract antivirals, and you have to go find these antivirals within New York City. But when you get dropped, you're dropped basically in nothing more than a hazmat suit with very little protection. So you have to scavenge materials to build both armor, weapons. They also use skills within the Division. So things such as turrets and heal stations and whatnot. So you have to scavenge all of this while trying to work towards wherever your antivirals are located on the map. Once you've done that, then you actually are able to call in a helicopter for extraction, in which case you have to actually craft a flare gun to send up a flare. And when you go to call that extraction, they added a new type of enemy, and the new type was called a hunter. And this hunter has a really high AI on it, meaning that it will roll, it will use its own self-heals, it will block your skills. So they're very difficult to kill, and it really added huge complexity to the game.
Yeah, that sounds like an entire game.
It makes it really fun. It is. I mean, basically, when you sit down to play that, because there is no way to pause, you can matchmake either in PvE or PvP modes. You're locked in for probably about an hour, hour and a half, depending on how long it takes you to get in, get your antivirals, and get out. So it's a game in its own. Unfortunately, right now at this point, it's a great game mode, but the loot isn't near enough to justify the time of the investment. There's other activities that you can get better loot and quicker than playing survival. But it's still one of those things that the exhilaration of running it is just so much fun that you get a couple of guys in there and you're running all over with your buddy and trying to amass as much stuff as you can to try to survive. So a lot of fun.
Yeah. I could definitely back you up on that. I remember playing that with Ronin. I played it with you too, and I think I played it with Kermit as well. One thing that I really wish they would have done, so like Ubisoft, if you're listening, you can take that concept, and battle royales are really hot right now. So if you take that and put that in a battle royale type game, you got yourself a killer right there. Jeez.
Yeah, that would be.
But
that would be pretty cool if they could do that, or if they did that, for sure.
So I was talking to Audio earlier today, and so I guess I'm the odd one out here. I've never played The Division before, ever. And what I was telling Audio is basically everything I know about The Division I have learned in the past 24 hours. And that's because like what we're talking about today is the Division and Destiny. Because right now you're talking about how like The Division's really solid and how you really like the survival mode. And like 1.8 is just this great game. But my understanding is that when it first released, it was not like that. It was a very broken game when it first came out. So how do you what was it like really when it first came out?
Here's the thing that I hear compared a lot. Is that if you were to take the original Destiny vanilla version and then skip ahead to year 3, that's the difference that you're seeing right now in the Division and Division 1.8, is that it took them that long to really hammer things out, to get it smoothed out. And I attribute a lot of that to they had, I think they're called ETFs or EFTs. I forget. Yeah. Forget their acronym for that. Yeah. Okay. They started with that. They realized that we've got a huge game here that we came out with, but it's chock full of problems, and we really need some good player input to get ourselves back on track. And they were really actually willing to listen to their players, so much so that they actually flew them to Europe. And they all sat down. They had basically a week, I believe it was. They went through every part of the game, and they, these are a lot of them were streamers, and so a lot of them had a lot of input, not only from what they've experienced, but also their listeners or viewers. And so they put all of that in, and then they released, I think it was around 1.5, 1.6. I don't know the actual number, and it definitely made leaps and bounds forward. And I think they had 1 or 2 more of those that happened, and each time they successfully kept moving more forward in a balanced and improved environment as far as gameplay. Now, at the same time, what they also started incorporating was what they called a playtest server. And they would send out invites to people to come and join the playtest server. And basically it was a copy of the game that had all of the updates on the server so that people could log into that server, they could play it, and then they had a feedback forum so that you could tell them exactly the things that you encountered, how you could duplicate them, any kind of problems. They could see whether or not the balances were too OP, in one direction or another. And so they got tons of feedback from the playtest servers, and they've kept doing that for each update that they've done. So they've really been able to bounce it prior to actually releasing it to the public. So that's just made leaps and bounds difference within the game.
And I really have to, because I did read about these ETFs a little bit. I really do have to hand it to Ubisoft because, they really went out of their way to look at player feedback. the first one was for patch 1.4, and I read this guy's write-up. And yeah, there were some content creators on there. There were some hardcore players, and they did a really good like cross-section of the player base. Because the guy's write-up that I read, he was actually one of the guys who was like one of the original members of Dads of Destiny. And so he was like, yeah, man, I get like 2 hours a night to play. And so it's not like he was like the hardcore casual, kind of like a lot of us, I think, are. Mm-hmm. And he wrote about it, and it was like, yeah, they went to Europe for like 3 days, and it was nothing but like meetings with the devs and all sorts of stuff. And they listened to their ideas. They heard what the devs were dealing with. And so it seemed like, yeah, a very, very bold move by Ubisoft, but also something that was very, very beneficial.
It's very hands-on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there came a point right about then, and it really came about, I think it was about 1.3. 1.3 was really, really broken. At that point, their updates had actually gotten worse rather than improving things, and people were really getting fed up. So I think it was their idea of, okay, do we just pitch this game altogether, or how can we improve it? We obviously have players that are invested in the game and are giving us feedback, such as Reddit and things like that. Maybe it's time we actually bring them in, and let's see if we can't sit down and work this out together. And I think it was a great plan. I think it was definitely a long shot, and probably a lot of people or a lot of developers wouldn't have taken that approach, but it was bold and it worked for them.
Yeah, it's sad that it took 2.5 years to get here, but they did.
Exactly.
And from personal experience, like, I just recently purchased it on PC. I've been playing it on PC for a couple of weeks now with a buddy of mine, and from the moment that I logged on and I just started walking around and doing stuff, I noticed a change just right off the bat. I mean, you could. Yeah. Well, what they did is they went through and because they apparently New York didn't really look like too accurate, so they actually went in and changed a bunch of the aesthetics, and then added some stuff, in the streets and things like that, and you could just tell it looks more realistic. It looks more immersive.
Well, I've seen actual posts within Reddit of people that, I worked here, and then they went and they found it within the Division. They've actually gone into the
That's
game,
really
and
cool.
They posted the picture of where they worked and the Division version as well. So I thought they must have really gone to quite the extent to try to get all the architecture and the city layouts right.
Yeah, I even remember back when it came out. It had been out for a little while, but I remember Ronin he had went on a Christmas vacation to go to New York. I don't know, I'm sure if it was before or after the game came out. And while we were playing it, he was like, oh, well, I went here, and oh, well, we did this, and oh, if you go down this street and go this way, we went here. And I was like, that's cool. they brought that to life, and for somebody like Ronin to just be like that, I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, for it to be so on that you could actually recognize, if you got to New York, to actually recognize it just simply because you saw it in a video game. That's pretty amazing.
And I really think that just what I wanted to say before, just with the ETF, the Elite Task Force, when they flew the content creators out there, Bungie really needs to take a page out of that and apply that to this game. Seriously. If they did something like that, they can get some honest, face-to-face feedback from people that play their game, especially streamers. That could. But Bungie really, they have their cards really tight to their chest. If they could just pull them out, just a little bit, it would really help. That's just what I personally think about it, though.
I've thought about about where we're at with D2 and things like that, and we ran through a lot of these problems. We saw a lot of issues, a lot of quality of life issues in the early days of Destiny, and I still have faith that Bungie will get it right. What's the biggest concern to me right now is the simple fact that we've gone through all of this. This is a repeat of history, and I would have thought that that's something that, that they would have learned from, and that they would have came out with D2 and had the formula right, so to say. And I just don't see it. And it's definitely right hand not talking to the left, as we all know. But I do have faith that it will happen. Unfortunately, I think it's taking longer than it should.
Well, and the question you run into there is that, like you said, patch 1.3 with Division, right, was terribly broken. Mm-hmm. And like even in the notes that Ronin made for me about the Division, he says that patch 1.3 pretty much broke the game. And I listened to some streamers and I read some things, and patch 1.3 for the Division is really where that was the point where people were like, yeah, half my friends list just disappeared. They just stopped playing. And so
exactly.
And with Destiny 2, you kind of get to that point. It's like, okay, after 3 years of Destiny 1 and then reverting so far back, getting basically our patch 1.3 of Destiny, will the player base come back? What is it going to take to bring them back? Because at this point, a lot of people are saying it's like being a fan of Bungie, trying to be a fan of Destiny right now is exhausting because you've gone through this before.
It's a tough job.
And it's, and so even if they were to bring in all these players and get that feedback and everything, will people still come back? And it's a question I don't know.
And I would have to answer yes, most definitely yes. And the reason I say that is because of what I've seen with the Division 1.8. There's such a huge amount of people coming back to it that I now have to wait sometimes to log on to a server because there's so many people playing right now. And I haven't seen that since the opening of Division. There's that many players, and because of that gives me it tells me two things. If you make it great, people will come back and play. You just have to be there, and if you can nail it, they're going to come back, and they'll come back in hordes. Everybody just wants a great game that they can feel that they've made a great achievements, that the grind is worth the time and effort that they're putting into it, and that they walk away happy. And I think that's the key to it.
MadDog, you are like the most positive person we have ever had on this show. We need to get you on more often.
Well, I try to be optimistic because, let's face it, we know that they can make a great game. It's just them getting, sorry, but their heads out their ass and get it figured out. And they really need to do it quick. So that they can prevent more player loss.
They just have so many talented people at Bungie. I mean, seriously,
most definitely.
I just don't understand. I really feel like Bungie needs to take a page from what Ubisoft did with the Division. I'm not sure if Activision's gonna go play along with it, because they gotta meet goals for their quarters and things like that. But I mean, can I just do a rundown real quick of 1.8, just a really quick? Just these are the major things about 1.8 that make it great, and just keep in mind this update does not cost anything.
Yep,
it is completely free. Also, the end game does not require you to have the other expansions to play it.
Oh, that's another great thing. I did not know.
Just as an example, Pandemonium, he picked up the base game. He hasn't bought any of the DLCs, and practically every day this week, he's jumped on and been able to play within our fire teams on all of the in-game content, simply because he doesn't have to buy it to own it there. So
because there's two game modes that. I mean, the servers are literally just dead at this point. It's for survival, and I don't know what the other one is, but basically those two are the ones that come with the other expansions in the season pass. Mm-hmm. Those servers are dead. Nobody plays them. If you just buy the base game, you could play the whole fucking game and get all the way to the end. And the base game, it's like what, $20 brand new?
Yep.
Imagine what it's like if it's on sale. It's so cheap. Anyways, back to my point here. So they added a brand new area. It's the West Side Pier. And that's where the two new modes take, which is Resistance, which is like a horror mode, and Skirmish, which is it's a PvP mode. It's 2 teams of 4 agents. Basically, whoever has the highest number of kills win. But that Skirmish alone has a ranking system.
Yep.
Does Destiny 2 PvP have a ranking system? No, it does not.
They have it on the slate. I've seen that, but you know, like all other things, we'll have to wait and see what happens. I will take a second here to kind of tell you a little bit of the history of the PvP in the Division. PvP in the Division has been probably one of the most toxic experiences I've ever seen within a video game on PvP. The reason for it is that they did like I don't remember the name of the technology exactly, but one thing is while you're playing in this basically a confined space of probably about a 30 by 30 block space called the Dark Zone, you can go rogue. You can kill other agents and create manhunts on yourself, or go on manhunts to kill other agents that have gone rogue, basically shooting another player. But they also did, and this was the technology I don't know the name for, but basically if you get close to somebody within, like you're running down the street, you can actually hear other players talking. And so that really opened it up for some bad trash talking, and it did get bad at times.
So it's like proximity-based chat?
So they exactly a proximity-based chat.
Okay.
And so that was making it toxic. The other thing that made it toxic was the way that they had it set up, and this was not too long ago really, is that, say for example, if 2 guys on your fire team are there, one of the other guys could jump in front of an enemy's fire and cause them to go rogue on accident and things like that. So what they did is in 1.8 they changed the system, and most of the feedback I've seen on it has been really, really positive. Now there's no accidental shooting, a teammate or somebody else's teammate, anything like that. You actually have to make a conscious and effort and actually tell it that you want to go rogue now, so that they created this rogue system. And then if you kill enough other players, you'll eventually get what's called a manhunt. And then when the manhunt is on you, you have a set destination that you have to go, and you have to get the manhunt turned off. And everybody knows where it's going to happen, and everybody will converge on that point and try to kill the people that have a manhunt status. So it kind of brought the Dark Zone together, and at the same time didn't have any accidental rogue statuses. Everything's now very much more uniform as far as, what, if I do this and I tell it that I want to go rogue, I'm rogue. It wasn't an accidental shooting and damn it, I didn't mean to do that type of thing, and that happened all the time.
Yeah, I'm just going to read the excerpt. I'm looking at the list of stuff from the update on the wiki page. It says, to go rogue, the agent needs to toggle their rogue status before being able to do any damage to friendly agents. Any member of their group can choose to also go rogue or to leave the group. So that alone makes the DZ way better, because I hated going into the Dark Zone because it was so fucking trolly.
It was bad. It was really bad.
It was really bad.
Now, I will say this. The other major change that really improved the PvP of the Division came about when they released, and this was the other DLC that you were trying to think of, and that's The Last Stand. And The Last Stand is like a 12v12 PvP arena. There was objectives and things like that. Well, what they did was that they saw that people were coming up with just some totally ridiculous OP builds within the DZ. So prior to releasing The Last Stand, what they did was, as soon as you get placed in The Last Stand, it takes everybody's armor, everybody's weapons, and it maxes all values on all of it. So everybody now is on a level playing field. No matter, even if they may have a different build, but their max for that build would match the same build on the enemy's team. So everybody was leveled, and that made a huge difference for PvP. And then they carried that on into this new skirmish that they released with 1.8. So everything's much more balanced than it used to be within the PvP arena.
So
Yeah, and so they added. Sorry, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, so that's similar to like the light level is disabled in PvP for Destiny kind of thing, right?
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly what they had.
Yeah.
What they had did.
Yeah, and so they added something called the optimization station. Basically, like
Kiosks?
basically from so from my personal experience, it looks like they like the stuff like fabric and tools and weapon parts and stuff is just completely irrelevant. The only thing that matters is just division tech. And basically it's a station where you can go to, you can literally go and just min-max certain stats, and it's not the whole thing. So I think that's pretty cool. And resistance, which is the horde mode. And then there's like, they added new classified geared sets, and there's just like pages upon pages of all these updates that they went through, and this just looks like a lot of work. So 1.8, it's totally free, and it's definitely worth trying. So
Definitely
if
is.
it's definitely worth, like even.
You know, Esteban actually posted a link into the main chat not too long ago, and it basically took, and I kind of wanted to explain real quickly the classified gear sets. Classified gear sets are basically a maxed out gear set that you could get that is basically curtailed to certain types of builds, whether it's a DPS build, a healer build, or whatnot. But the reason I'm bringing this up, and this is something that I thought was really interesting, was that Esteban posted this link, and it was, I forget which article it was, but they were talking about if that same type of, not necessarily classified, but a build set was carried over into Destiny, what that could do to the game. And I really think it was a cool idea. Imagine that, you had this hunter, you're running a hunter in Destiny 2, you got all of the gear set, all the armor pieces that you needed, and for each piece that you added on, you got special abilities, such as one of the things, just as an example, I won't run through them all, but was like if you were on a golden gun, you had the hunter, and you had Thorn would reload 3 times faster, and anytime you used a golden gun, you would get double damage as long as you had five out of the 6 pieces of armor.
That's cool.
But it was armor specific builds, so it would actually make you chase full builds of armor for the specific type of class that you wanted to run.
And
so I thought it was a
add
great
variety
idea.
to your playstyles as well.
For real.
It definitely would, and everybody wants to go and grind for something. They want to have something to chase at the end of the day there, and I think that would really throw a lot of variety, and a lot of people would come back and look at that seriously.
I completely agree. I've
I
said
think
for
gear sets is
a
something
long
that-
time that like set perks, like armor sets, like in Diablo 3, that's where I know it from. And in World of Warcraft, I've always said that that's something definitely that Destiny 2 could use, and I think could use it to great effect. But before we like babble on forever about how because there's obviously tons of ways that we think that like the Division could like elements from the Division or from Diablo or from World of Warcraft. There's tons of elements of those games that could be brought into Destiny 2 that would work. But as far as a company, like we've got Ubisoft, which made the Division, and it was not all together to begin with, and then ended up making a great game out of it. And we've got Bungie in a very similar situation. So like as a company, what is like just one or two of the biggest things you think that Bungie could take and bring into their company to really make Destiny 2? Like what attitudes or strategies do you think they will really need to bring in to make Destiny 2 a great game, like they did, like the Division became?
Well, I think Audio hit on it on one page there of they really need to open it up to criticism, by their players. And the easiest way to do that is very much like Ubisoft did, of pulling those players into their headquarters, sit down with the developers, go through the things that they've seen as problems, that they hear other players complaining about, sit down and do that. I think that would be an important first step for them. And then secondly, I think they really need to review their history. I think they need to look back, look at the formula that they had at the end of year 3, look at the things that they were getting all the positive feedback, why all the players came back to do that, and try to incorporate that into where they're at now. And I think they would be back on track.
Yeah, what about you, Audio? Do you think there's anything else to add to that?
Well, I can't think of, like, besides what I had said earlier, I can't really think of anything specific, but I really feel like Bungie needs to just take more risk. Just take a risk. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Now you know what doesn't work. Try something else. This is what I'm talking about. They need to stop keeping everything so close to their chest. Pull it away. Try other things. It's okay to branch out. You know, like in that movie The Other Guys. I'm a seagull, man. You just got to let me fly. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just try different things. You'd be surprised at what happens. And if you see this and be like, oh, well, this idea didn't work, but we like this aspect of it, let's take it, let's build something new. It'll work. Trust me. I've seen it in tons of games. So, but other than that, you know, it's just, yeah, sorry, I got on a little tangent.
No, that's fine. That's great.
I've been holding that in.
It's all good.
Yeah, man, but you see what I'm saying? It's just take some more risk.
I really do think you're right. I think that they, you know, I think if anything, this whole thing about them saying that they're going to be more open to communication and whatnot, and then the debacle that we've seen here recently with the faction rally, and that I don't think that they're still being honest, and not honest with themselves either.
I just don't think they're communicating internally very well. So I think they're all trying to be honest, but like if you notice, like the community managers had to like, hang on, let me go ask the devs what the hell is going on, and then they had to update stuff.
Yeah.
So I really think that's just internal communication sucks for that. I think they're trying to. I really do think they're making an effort. I just think they can't talk to each other. But
yeah.
I mean, the communication thing, I totally get behind you 100%, but you got to realize, I mean, Bungie is a huge company. There's a lot of people working on this game. So I can kind of cut up a little bit of slack on the communication thing. But
I think, you know, in order to be an efficient company, there still needs to be a chain of command, and as they're doing the chain of command, that, you know, the leaders of those different teams need to be communicating, especially to the public relations officer, as far as getting that stuff out, letting them know. And to be honest with you, if I was within the public relations, I would be trying to dig up as much new information as I could disperse to the public to keep their interest, to keep them understanding that I'm working on this. You know, we're really working on this. These are the things we want to do, and whatnot. And it just seems like they kind of regurgitate it all out at once, and then you don't hear from them for a long time. And I just don't know. I think it would be better if they just kept everybody abreast of what's going on in a lot quicker fashion. I think people would be more forgiving.
And so basically what I'm hearing from both of you as far as like Division Destiny kind of thing is that, you know, making communication a much higher priority, you know, both internally and externally, taking player suggestions more seriously, and like the way that Ubisoft is, they actually literally flew people to Europe, flew people to headquarters in Maine or wherever it was, and you know, making those gestures like that, showing us like, hey, we're actually so invested in what you think that we're going to take these 13 guys and fly them halfway across the world, kind of thing. And I completely agree with those. Like, I've never played a second of the Division. It sounds really cool at this point. Like, it sounds really ambitious and really great, and I kind of want to pick it up, but I'm like way too broke right now, so I'm probably not. But
Well, we could probably help you out with that, but let's go on.
Jeez. Like that's all I need is another time sink.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, and those seem like very fundamental. I mean, they're huge things. Obviously, there's a ton of stuff that goes into that, but they seem like very fundamental things that Bungie could change, and I feel like would really be great for the game. The one thing I would say at this point, and this is kind of where I don't want to go into this too much because we take forever here. So right now at Bungie, as far as I know, there's the live team. There's a DLC 2 team, and there's already a D3 team. In my opinion, what should be going on right now, because the way I understand it is that the live team is the only one really working on a lot of these updates I've been talking about. Everybody, every single dev at Destiny right now needs to become a part of the live team. I think that all like 300 developers or how many are there, they need to put whatever projects they're working on pause right now and be like, hey, let's fix this base game, these base mechanics. Let's get all this sort of stuff worked out. And then if we have to delay DLC 2 by a month, if we have to delay D3 by a month or whatever, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, it's better that we fix the game before we lose all of our players than to push out a DLC on a fundamentally still broken game. So that's like the one thing I would add to that.
I couldn't agree more. The fact that if they don't do something, what's the point of developing D3 if you don't have any following? But at that point, it really does come down to let's get it fixed so that we can move on, we can keep on developing, and we can basically invest in our own future here is what it amounts to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I guess that everything that we just said just kind of bounced off what I had said. Just take some risk.
Agree.
Yep.
Seriously, just take risks. Just take risk. All right. So, you guys got anything else to add before we wrap this up?
I do not.
I really enjoyed having MadDog on.
No?
That's the last thing
All
I'll
right.
add.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on, man. We're much
Appreciate
appreciated.
the invite. And, anytime, you guys.
Yeah, man. Awesome. We'll have to get you on another time. So that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode. We'd like to thank you for listening to Deltaco Fireteam Chat, episode number 12. You can reach us on Twitter at, I think it's Deltaco_71. If you'd like to get a hold of us, you can email us at deltacofireteamchat@gmail.com. We'd like to thank you for listening. Hope you have a great day. Peace.
Hey guys, No Face here. Once again, we would like to thank you for listening to the podcast. And one more thing we'd like to do before the episode is up is there are a lot of people that help with the podcast every week. Normally you hear myself, Audio, and Krakenfall on the podcast regularly, but there are so many other people that help with the podcast. From people that we just bounce ideas off and chat, to people who provide footage, to actually our guests who actually come on the show, much like MadDog did this week. So one person in particular that I would like to point out who made a major contribution to today's podcast that was not actually featured was Ronin LD. All of the Division footage that you saw today on the YouTube version was courtesy of Ronin LD. He's a great guy, one of my good friends, and I highly suggest you check him out on YouTube. We will provide a link to his YouTube channel below. And once again, we would like to thank everyone who is involved in the podcast, and today, especially Ronin LD.